Headaches and Heartaches, and Aoife McGrath is here. She's our resident psychotherapist from Inner Therapy in Portlaoise, and we've a good few really difficult problems to wrestle with today. Aoife, good morning.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Oh, I'm in good form, including the brother-in-law moving in without much discussion, it would seem. Anyway, we'll start with Paul's query. Paul is from County Laois. He's in his early 50s and has worked on the family farm all of his life alongside his parents. He says, my younger brother left years ago. He built a career in Dublin and he rarely comes home except at Christmas. My father recently hinted that he will split the farm equally between the two of us because he doesn't want to favour anybody in particular. Now, I know legally it is his choice, but emotionally I'm devastated. I have sacrificed relationships, holidays and other career opportunities to keep the place going, while my brother has had a completely different life. I don't want to cause a family row, but I also feel like nobody is acknowledging everything that I have put into the farm. So should I say something now, or keep quiet and just hope things work themselves out?
A tough one, and something that comes up a lot, like in the therapy room, maybe not as a presenting issue, but inheritance and the splitting of assets and land is a huge issue in Ireland in general, and especially, I suppose, with farms. So a really difficult scenario for Paul to be in. I feel that it's not, it would not be of benefit to leave it and to see what happens. It was interesting, I rarely quote politicians, but Michael Healy-Rae made a point in the Dáil a while ago that farms aren't really viewed by most farmers as commercial assets. It's more of a heritage. It's more of an inheritance that you pass down to the next generation. So I'd be curious for Paul what his father's intentions are for the farm. Does he intend it to continue as a working farm? When he says things are to be split evenly, how does that work? Often you'll see families where, say, someone will get the farmhouse, someone will get a number of acres, but normally the person who's going to continue working the farm is able to live on the farm and has enough land, obviously, to make it work. So there are details, I suppose, that Paul's entitled to find out, or even to be curious about, to see whether it actually will be a viable option for him going forward. I mean, he's in his early 50s. He's dedicated his life to farming. Not that it's never too late to change careers, but is that what's on the cards for him? So yes, I wouldn't be leaving that leaving it on the long finger to find out. I'd be curious about what his father's intentions are for the farm as a whole going forward.
Maybe I'm being cynical and I should be more charitable to the father, but is it possible the man in his advanced years does not want conflict now and figures, let them sort it out when I'm not here?
Yeah, well, I suppose that's maybe, like, I've seen that happen as well, where people have been forthright or they sort of are saying now, while they're still very much alive, what their plans are. And that's also backfired. So not only sometimes do you have that, this is the way it's going to be, get used to it, it's causing conflict anyway. In the same way, you don't know until the will sometimes is read, and then that can cause all sorts of problems. And often wills are contested. Even if you've left a will, it's fought over. So it's not, I suppose, maybe he's stepping away from it, but I would find it unlikely, maybe I'm being a bit naive in that the father doesn't have a sense of what he'd like the farm to continue as, or do you know what I mean, in terms of like that inheritance bit or that heritage bit? Is he done and he doesn't care what happens to it, or does he think that Paul will continue farming, but that the younger son will get his fair due? And I suppose it's, how would that look, and is that possible? What sort of farm are we talking about? What sort of splitting of assets are we talking about? So I'm not sure. It's never going to be an easy one. But I think that it's something that definitely could be, I suppose, a family meeting again. I think the Irish in general, we're not good at talking about things, especially about finances and things like that.
I'd love to know the personality of the various brothers as well. I'm getting the impression that Paul is perhaps a little bit more meek and timid, and he's the one who has stayed at home, whereas the other brother has the big career and maybe is used to negotiating and arguments. Yeah. And who knows? But ultimately, it is the father's choice. So
It is, legally it is. And I suppose it also brings in it, he mentions his parents, so his mother is still in the picture. So what are the plans there? Will she be living on the farm? There's all sorts of implications to it. And it's also, I suppose, depends how old the father is in terms of what his plans are again. Will whoever is going to inherit the farm only inherit it once his wife has passed on? There's all that, 'cause ultimately she will be the first, I presume, inheritor of the farm, and then it'll pass to the sons after her. So I'm not a legal expert by any means, but it's a complicated business. I suppose ideally, in an ideal situation, you would have a conversation around it. You would have a conversation of, this is what my plans are, and then everyone would have a chance to say, like, logistically, and maybe there are resources or services that can offer that sort of help. I know that nowadays it's not unusual for there to be sort of, if a couple's getting married, for there to be prenuptials involved where there's a farm involved. And there could be mediation facilities for families. I don't know. I would see that as a really good service to have, that you mediate and you work out, this is what we have, this is what it would look like if it was divided up, this is what needs to be kept in place for it to be a functioning farm. All those sort of things could be done with a third party, maybe who's neutral and who's just looking at it from, the best scenario for everyone. So it's a difficult situation, but I don't think, unless you said you're picking up that Paul maybe is the meeker of the two brothers, it's not an easy conversation to have, but I don't think it's something you can bury your head in the sand in, especially when his livelihood depends on it. There's so much of him involved in the farm, so I don't think he can, afford not to maybe have it in more definite terms what it would look like for him.
Stay there,
I don't
Aoife.
think that's an unreasonable request.
No, it's not. It's not. But then emotions are seldom reasonable.
Oh, yes.
And I think we've got a difficult one, in fact, a couple of difficult ones involving parents and in-laws and brothers. And, we're back with a doozy after these.
Midlands Today with Will Faulkner. Find out what you missed earlier at midlands103.com.
Aoife McGrath is with us. She's a psychotherapist from Inner Therapy in Portlaoise, and some of these issues come up in the therapy room and some do not. But this is one I think a lot of families might relate to. So Emma says, my fiancé and I are getting married next summer, and we wanted a small wedding of about 80 guests because that's what we can realistically afford. Is that the definition of a small wedding now, Aoife? 80 guests?
I guess you could have, I think weddings have gone back to the craziness of sort of I wouldn't say pre-COVID, but pre the last recession that we have. I think they have gone back to huge numbers, but more people are opting for smaller restaurant weddings. So it could be, I suppose it's average. Let's say it's average.
I digress. So she says, my parents keep adding people to the guest list, saying it's expected in a small town that so-and-so will be invited and they'll be offended if they're not. Some of the names are people I haven't seen since I was a child. So now we're up at nearly 140 guests and the cost is spiralling. My parents are contributing a little financially, but nowhere near enough to cover the extra people. They're saying we'll regret upsetting these people, but I think we'll regret starting married life in debt. So how do we draw a line without causing a rift?
Well, I think the cost is a huge thing, and I think cost is something that has changed hugely over the years in terms of what it costs to have a wedding. So I guess it's a difficult conversation to have. I think that, and that might just be my experience, but I think that old, maybe a couple of years ago, a couple of decades ago, of inviting everyone, all the neighbours, everyone who you know, I think that might have changed a little bit. Maybe their parents don't feel it has, but I think it has. I think there's not that expectation of being invited just because you're living in the same area. It is a hard one for the parents, but I think to bring it back to, I'm not sure if it's, like we said, what's an average wedding? I'm not sure if this is just about money or if the couple want a small wedding. If you think about 80 guests, it's only around 40 on either side, which would cover your family, your relatives, mainly your friends, hopefully. But there isn't much room or scope then to add. And I think the problem there is once you start adding one person, then it turns into, sure, we can't ask Mary and John and not ask Peter and Jane. Do you know what I mean? So it turns into that, where does it end? So I think it might be worth having a conversation with them about, and again, because they're contributing a little bit, but they're not going to be covering, I mean, they're nearly up to nearly double the amount of guests they wanted already. But maybe drawing a line and saying, can you pick maybe 5 couples that you really want to be there? And both parents can do that. So you're talking about, what's that, 20 people on top of the 80, which would be 100. That might be manageable, but to cap it. And sometimes to put the ball back in their court and say, you pick. Then, and if they're struggling, say, it might be easier, then they might see it's easier to not pick and to just stick to what the couple want. But it is definitely something to talk about and to just, bring it back to the financials, because it is, you don't want to start off your married life, your honeymoon, owing
here's
money.
Another thing, and maybe I'm a bit of a mutant for saying this. There's a certain relief at times when you're not invited to a wedding, because it can be terribly expensive. Yeah,
it is. And those costs have gone up for guests as well. So everything's gone up. So your price of staying at a hotel has gone up. I know this is nitpicking, price of fuel. And the present or the gift, that I saw a recent debate on how much nowadays is acceptable for a wedding gift. So it is an expensive endeavour. And some people, especially maybe of Emma's parents' generation, not sure what age they are, but of that generation, they do see it more as a sort of invoice rather than an invite. So you're right, some people are delighted not to be invited. And I think their parents will kind of know who would really want to be there and who would be okay with not being invited, in terms of people who are involved with the family, people who have a really good connection with Emma. So I think it is something that can be negotiated, but if it isn't reined in, it could be how long is a piece of string. And then you're talking about if they've already identified their 80 guests and it's already been added to hugely. They do have people there that maybe they don't want to be there, and they don't have anything against them, but they don't want. 80 is kind of an intimate number. It's big enough, but it's still intimate enough that you're walking around and all the faces you see are people that you really want to be in the room. And I think that's what couples maybe are going for more these days.
Yeah, and that way you don't have to run around the room constantly making sure that everybody's okay.
Yes,
you can focus on
that's
yourself.
It.
One more, and unfortunately only 2 minutes to deal with what is a very, very big problem. Lisa says her husband's brother has moved in with them following a separation from his wife. Their parents are deceased, so he really has nobody else. But he has been there a couple of months, and it doesn't look like he's moving out anytime soon. There was even talk of him getting a cabin in the back garden. So she wants to be supportive, but she also wants her home back. Is she being selfish?
It's a tough one. It's a really tough one, because you'd feel for the brother-in-law, because even trying to find somewhere to live at the moment is really hard. So I suppose if she's, a logistic or a practical way of looking at it is, would the cabin be a temporary thing? Could it be something that Lisa could use herself in the future? So just on a practical level, could that be a way of getting him out of the house, getting space, but supporting him because maybe he's struggling to find somewhere to live? Would it then be a case of, and I might have jumped the gun here, my practicality, would it be a case of them investing in the cabin and saying, this is going to be ours, but you can stay here for now, and maybe putting a bit of a boundary there that this is not a permanent situation? I'm pretty sure he doesn't intend to live there permanently, but it might be worth having that discussion about where does he see himself, or is it a chance for him to save or deposit on a place? Maybe to have that conversation, all of them, her husband and herself and the brother-in-law.
Yeah, she hasn't mentioned how the husband feels about this.
No, I presume he's okay with it if it's her feeling that she's selfish. But I suppose it's just have the conversation.
Maybe he's not, and he doesn't want to say it because he doesn't want to speak ill of his brother. It's possible they're on the same page.
It could be a way of maybe putting a boundary around how long will this last, and we want to support you, but ultimately, if it is sort of moving him one step out of the house, could that be something positive for her, that she would have an asset there in the garden that could be used for the family, so that she's not, that bit isn't too much to swallow, but maybe to put a boundary in place about how long that stay is going to be, or what he would need to move forward and get back to independence, I guess.
That's where we have to leave it, Aoife. Great
no
talking with
you,
you,
Will.
and we'll chat again soon.
Yes, always a pleasure.
And if you need to pick her brain on any issues, well, you can find her at Inner Therapy in Portlaoise, Aoife McGrath.